as much as you may have loved public service, you worked at a Subway, and a Subway that served a dual purpose also as a crack den.
Well, I'll tell you what. So that Subway was crazy. Yeah, so when I went to school down in Florida, and I dropped out, which was a very exciting time.
As it always is.
But I wasn't ready to move back home, so I had to get a job down there, and I got a job at the Subway around the corner. And it was, I had worked in food before, obviously, in like the food service industry, but you do that in Central Florida, it's a completely different animal. I remember so there was this woman I worked with there, and my first day of training, it was like come in, go in the back, and get on a computer and like start doing these classes. And then this woman comes in, and she was a Subway lifer. Like, she'd worked at Subway for like 20 years or something like that, and she was like, she was like in her 60s, so she probably worked there. She probably worked at Subway. I don't know however long.
Well, Subway gives you the tools to, create your own future. They
Right.
They build internally. Yeah.
So she was at least in her 60s, but it was also hard to tell because she was cracked out. Like, that woman was really super on drugs. And she comes in and she ride her bike into work every day. And she just had this massive pink keychain that just said bitch on it. And I called this woman, my nickname for her was
Bitch.
Oogie Boogie. No. My nickname for her was Oogie Boogie because that first day, when I'm, doing the computer or whatever, her bike is right next to me and she's got her purse on it and Music of the Islands. And I look over and there's bugs crawling out of her purse. Like tiny little like roaches is what straight up that's what they were. I won't sugarcoat it. They weren't like, full on guys, but they were like small roaches were crawling around her purse and like crawling out of the purse onto the bike and into the. So I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It was disgusting. And
Yeah, that's gross.
She had like that kind of drug accent where it's like very gruff kind of yelling and you can't really understand what they say all the time. Like, kind of like a
she's
pirate.
doing drugs. Yeah.
And she she would say things like, I don't need my birthday off, I need the day after my birthday off.
Yep. Well, that's very like Florida, like panhandle-y.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
She had that.
Like,
yeah, she was definitely like from Florida.
Yeah, and people from Florida are, as we know, built different. Like, there's nothing. There's not. People say everything's slower in Florida, which they say everything's slower in the South, which is true in Florida. Things take forever. Everybody takes forever to do everything. But people in Florida are just a different breed of human, and I don't think there's any denying that.
Oh yeah. Do
you think that she just lived among bugs, or
Yes, I
maybe
do.
by chance she had like a lizard or something as a pet, and she would just like keep?
No,
she just lived among bugs.
Look, when you live in Florida, you get to know bugs pretty well.
Yeah,
and these were not lizard
yeah.
food bugs. These were bugs that just were all around.
Well, you know what they say: keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. So she was just doing her due diligence to stay safe.
I don't know, man.
That's
like
how I would
said,
look at it.
Oogie Boogie. She seemed pretty close with these bugs.
She spoke to them. Like when she left Subway for the day, she would whistle, and the bugs would scurry back to her purse, and she'd bring them home. Yeah.
Oh my god, it was. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how are you that? Jesus Christ! But yeah, it was weird working there. There was like this one time, this guy came in, and he was just this very tall, menacing figure, and he just came in with holding a brown paper bag, and he just put it in the garbage can, and then he left. And I was like, I'm not going near that garbage can. I was waiting for it to explode. So I was like, oh, there's a bomb in there.
Yeah, just classic. Nothing new.
There was this one girl who, she had worked at another Subway, but she transferred to this one. And my first day working with her was the dinner shift or whatever. And she immediately was just telling me everything about her baby daddy and like all this stuff, just like going
just
on
work
and on
chat.
and on.
Just work chat.
Just work chat. Yep. Hey, nice
Yeah.
to meet you. My baby daddy's a real piece of shit and all this stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm up front making sandwiches for people, and it's like the dinner rush kind of starts to come in. So now I got about 8 people in this line. And she was back there washing dishes, but I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, where is she? Why isn't she coming up front? I look to my right, and I can see out the big windows.
The Hollywood sign.
She is on the hood of her car, making out with this fucking guy who's literally groping her breasts while his tongue's in her mouth. On the hood of this car, fucking right next to a Moe's outside this Subway. And then she finally came back in, and she was like, "Oh, that was my baby daddy. I was telling you."
Oh, that was him. Yeah, that was the guy. That's such a big piece of shit.
So-
I was letting him grab my titties while I was supposed to be working.
So, this other girl that I worked with,
Quick,
who was
quick
so,
OTPHJ just right in the Moe's parking lot.
that whole place once that girl got there, things got really weird because this other woman that I worked with, her baby daddy was the manager of the Subway, and they were together when I started, and then while I was there, they broke up, and then this guy started dating that woman from the hood of the car. So everything was fucked up there. And then the only guy who I really liked there was this guy named Frank, because Frank hated people. He hated everybody.
Sometimes those are the best people.
Yep, and he just came in and like did his stuff and like would not talk to anybody. But another big problem there was the first time I had to like clean the bathroom. They were like, "Hey, make sure you watch out for needles and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And they're like, "No, seriously," because people would. It was kind of a hot spot for people to go into the Subway bathroom and like shoot up. So there was this one time when I was working nights, and one of the girls I was working with was up front at the counter, and she came back and she was like, "Do we have any spoons?" And I was like, "Oh, so there were kind of like these big spoons that we used for cooking and stuff that we had."
Yeah.
And she grabbed one of those and she brought it out. So I went out there when I was done with dishes. I was like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "Oh, this woman came in and asked for a spoon." So I handed her a plastic spork, and this woman goes, "No, like a metal spoon." So this girl that I work with went back and fucking got her one. And so this woman took her metal spoon into the Subway bathroom, obviously to melt her drugs. She had a 4-year-old kid with her and left him in the lobby while she was in the bathroom doing drugs. So the girl I was working with was like, "Oh, I just gave him a cookie or whatever." And then they left, and this cop came in to get his sub, and I was like, "Hey man, I know you're just getting your sub, but this woman just came in and she had a kid and they just left or whatever," and he like ran out of there, and I went around the corner and probably got her. But things like that. A lot of face tattoos. Saw a lot of face tattoos walk in there and order those $5
But face
footlongs.
tattoos is again. That's Florida.